dear learners, I'm Christina Georgy and I welcome you to my channel. Today we'll discuss a very important topic with respect to literary theory and criticism, that is Indian aesthetics. In our previous sessions, we have discussed the various aspects of Western philosophy, including Plato, Aristotle, their concepts and others. So today we'll move on to Eastern philosophy. As you all know, Western philosophical thoughts have gained much importance over the years, and to a considerable extent we can say that Eastern philosophical thought is quite inferior these days when compared to the Western philosophical thought. Why is that so? This could be because of myriad reasons. One important reason being that the Westerners enslaved the minds of the people, ignoring Eastern thoughts. As a consequence, less development happened in the field of Eastern philosophy when compared to the Western philosophical thoughts. Indian aesthetics can be compared to the Hindu aesthetics, that is the Indian view of art. Religious foundations and religious-based content can be seen with respect to this philosophical thought. We'll discuss all these aspects in today's video. So moving on to the major focus areas of today's discussion, we'll discuss Rasa, Dhvani, Spodha, Alamkara, Aujitya, Shruti and many others. Dear learners, as this is going to be a very lengthy video, we'll deal with this in parts. You're watching part 1. First and foremost, let's move on to the religious foundations. Religious and philosophic thought is quite significant as a factor in the social context of art in any moment of history. The various dominant religions of the Oriental antiquity inspired the artists. So in that sense, we can say that the Oriental religion-based cultures were in fact producers of art itself. The development of the religions were accompanied by a corresponding growth in vivid imagery. Therefore, much of the Indian art and criticism had a religious form and content. As a consequence, the Indian aesthetics had a spiritual base or context. It is evident from the link that one can make between the Rasa Leela of Krishna and the Gopis and the Rasa theory. Also, the artists, rulers and spectators, that is the audience in general, show a willingness to accept fantastic representations of the supernatural. You might have noticed how emphasis is placed on mystic symbolism in the arts, in dance and theatre in particular, with respect to the Indian traditions. Moving on to the non-spiritual expressions in Indian aesthetics. Many Indian aesthetic theories run down the Indriya perceptions as Maya or illusion. Apart from the sensory, naturalistic and humanistic expression have also made a mark in India's long philosophical traditions. Aesthetics was preoccupied with the production or stimulation of rasa or rasolpanna. Rasa had a spiritual as well as sensuous dimension to it. Now let's look at the mystic function associated. What do you mean by mysticism? It simply refers to becoming one with God or the Absolute. Art was produced and received in the framework of the spiritualism of the time. Mural paintings, scrolls and stone of bronze sculptures helped stimulate the desired attitude as a means of achieving moksha or moksha prapti. Accordingly, aesthetics was preoccupied with mystic symbolism. The bronze icon of the dancing Shiva is a symbol of the cosmic rhythm of creation and destruction. Moving on, now let's have a look at the association of the Hindu philosophical traditions with respect to Indian aesthetics. According to the Hindu traditions, there are quite a lot of myths and legends associated to Lord Krishna, and these legends and myths have immensely contributed to Indian aesthetics. Krishna is considered as the archetypal Rasiga. What do you mean by archetype? It refers to a very typical characterization. So he is a great god, he is also a mischievous child. We see him as the divine flute-playing lover, also as a religious moral teacher who propounds the philosophy of the Hindu worldview, also known as the karmic view. Indian philosophers have called attention to the importance of rasa in the experience of creation and appreciation of the arts in general, and particularly the theatre arts. The theory of rasas still forms the aesthetic underpinning of all Indian classical dance and theatre, such as Bharatanatyam, Kathak, Kuchipudi, Odissi, Manipuri, Kudiyattam, Kathakali, and others. The way of expressing rasa in classical Indian dance form is referred to as rasa abhinaya. The Natya Shastra carefully delineates the bhavas used to create each rasa. Who wrote the Natya Shastra? It was Bharata Muni. An allied concept is that of guna or value that goes with rasa. My dear learners, let me ask you, do you know who actually formulated the rasa theory? Yes, you are right. Bharata in his Natya Shastra. The rasa theory, as it is known to many Indian language literature critics, was originally formulated by Bharata in his treatise Natya Shastra. Let's have a look at rasa theory as such. The term rasa originates from the Sanskrit word ras, which literally means nectar or essence or taste. The word rasa was originally used for the drink of the gods and men alike, and also for some non-drinks such as mercury. In Sanskrit aesthetics, the term was employed initially in the context of drama, and later this got applied to poetry. As I mentioned, the rasa theory was originally formulated by Bharata in his treatise Natya Shastra. From Bharata onwards, the term rasa signified aesthetic pleasure or thrill accompanied with joy that the audience, that is the spectator or reader, experiences while witnessing the enactment or reading of a drama or a poem. So this refers to the aesthetic pleasure or thrill that the recipient is witnessing a performance. Dear learners, let me ask you, do you remember a connected aspect from the Western philosophy with respect to this? If so, let me know in the comment section. In Indian aesthetics, a rasa connotes a concept in Indian arts, the aesthetic flavor of any visual, literary or musical work. It also evokes an emotion or feeling in the reader or audience but cannot be described. In Bharata, it is the effect of drama. For him, the main purpose of dramatic performance is to create or enact the rasas. Without rasa, drama can have no appeal to the spectator, according to Bharata. He says rasa is artha par excellence. What do you mean by artha? It refers to meaning. He states that rasa emanates from a combination of vibhavas, anubhavas and vyabhicharis, that is, causes, effects and accessories. Rasa emanates from a combination of causes, effects and accessories. According to Bharata. Bharata clarifies this point by using an analogy. What do you mean by an analogy? It is a comparison between one thing and another, typically for the purpose of explanation or clarification. So what is the analogy used by Bharata? Just as rasa, that is flavor, issues from the combination of many spices, herbs and other dravyas, so does rasa in drama, as it comes from the combination of many bhavas. That is, as flavor is produced from the combination of many spices and herbs, similarly in case of drama, rasa comes from the combination of many bhavas. The concoction is made by the combination of such diverse substances such as molasses, spices and herbs, and that similarly permanent or universal emotions called sthayi bhavas crystallize into rasa when they are nourished by accompanying bhavas. Bharata coined the term rasa for aesthetic relish because it can be tasted. Rasa swadan. Now let's have a look at the point of similarity of this theory with Aristotle's theory of catharsis or purgation. These two are very different in their respective conception. But the point of similarity is that both these theorists are looking at the psychophysiological being affected on the spectator or listener as the case may be. The two theories are not about performance, but the composition or performance has to be such that such an evocation or production of rasa or pity and terror would be the result. So both these theories result in the evocation of pity or rasa. Moving on to rasa after Bharata, discussions by many of his interpreters such as Bharata Lolata, Bhattanayaka, Abhinavagupta are seminal to this. Let's have a look at these three one by one. First and foremost, Bhattalolata. Bhattalolata believed in the view that a sthayi bhava, when intensified by poetic description or histrionic representation through vibhavas, anubhavas, etc., becomes rasa. The rasa primarily resides in original characters like Rama and Sita, since they were the first to experience a wide range of emotions from love to grief. But through anusadhana, that is a mental activity and act of imagination, the actor attributes to himself the role of original characters and thus experiences rasa secondarily. Remember, Lolata ignores the poet and the audience in this transaction of rasa. Moving on to the next person, that is Shankuka. He considered the effect of rasa on the spectator through the latter's involvement in the action. Whose involvement? The spectator's involvement in the action. This is explained through the analogy of a picture horse. When we see the picture of a horse or wooden horse, what do? We accept it as if a real horse. This is the case when the spectator sees the faked emotions or rasas of the performer. Moving on to Bhattanayaka. It is Bhattanayaka who clearly asserted that rasa affects the spectator, and he developed the theory further by saying that poetic language is different from ordinary language. He imposed on the rasa theory a system of theology and philosophy. Bhattanayaka spiritualizes it to a great extent by saying that through rasa, the spectator's self becomes one with the divine soul, that is Paramatma. Through this, he achieves a flash of bliss. He treats the rasa experience in terms of Swarupananda as a kind of infinite subjectivity. The individual soul becomes the supreme soul. What is achieved here is self-realization or Atma Sakshatkara. On to an allied concept, that is rasa and jouissance. Who is Roland Barthes? Is a French essayist, theorist, philosopher, critic and semiotician. His work engaged in the analysis of a variety of science systems mainly derived from Western popular culture. So you must have heard of his work Death of the Author, right? If you haven't, stay tuned for we'll be discussing all these aspects in our upcoming videos. Stay tuned and stay subscribed, dear learners. The term jouissance in French means enjoyment and pleasure, in particularly in an over-the-top sense. Barthes talks about the reader's freedom from the oppression of authorial intention. Barthes thinks of the modernist novel as the text of rupture, which gives rise to the text of jouissance. That is, the reader discovers the fissures and gaps in the text which gives him pleasure. The Pleasure of the Text is a book by Roland Barthes. Though the theory of rasa is different from the idea of Barthes in many ways, it is noteworthy how both insist on the effect a literary text might have on the reader. Remember, both are reader-oriented theories and that both the metaphors have undertones of sexual pleasure. Dear learners, I have uploaded a few videos on literary criticism and theory. If you haven't watched, please find the links in the description or check out my playlist on literary criticism and theory. We'll discuss the Dhwani theory in our upcoming video. So stay tuned, dear learners. Stay subscribed. We'll meet again soon with interesting, useful and informative content on Indian aesthetics, literary theory, literary criticism and more aspects related to English language and literary studies. So till then, take care. Thanks for watching.